So I think this is the most important because usually these reflections that come at the end of the year and, are trying to steer people to create goals for the new year are all about all these things you've got to add and change and blah blah blah. But in all reality, I think the best thing that most of us could do is to stop doing something or some things. Take something off of the plate. Welcome back to the Valley to Peak Nutrition Podcast. This will be the final episode of 2025, and it's just me, and it will be relatively short, but I still wanted to do it to cover just a couple of things. The first of those things is just a very big thank you to every one of you. We are really close to 100,000 downloads since we first started this, and I didn't know when we first started this, what it would be. I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't go into it with any expectations and just kind of felt like if this helps 5 people or 500 people or 5,000 people or whatever, then it'll be worth it. I get so many nutrition questions from people throughout the week that what if we just plug these into a podcast and people that are searching these they've got somewhere to go to. So had zero clue that it would become this. So that's awesome. And just want to be sure to say thank you to you guys. This is easily the biggest piece of feedback that we get on a regular basis is how many people listen to this, how many people love it. And that seems to be especially true when Lindsay is on. So we will, be sure to continue those into 2026. And I've actually already recorded some podcasts that are kind of new for us, just new in terms of the subject matter and the guests that we have. And so I'm excited to release those. So definitely want to be sure to say thank you from us for all of the support over the years. The second thing that I wanted to cover is this idea of going into the new year and New Year's resolutions and goal setting and any other word or phrase that gets thrown around whenever it comes to this. And the reason that I wanted to cover it is because I think that it gets largely overcomplicated to the point of where most people don't do it. Number one, it's either so reflective that people just don't feel like they want to go that deep. They just don't want to mess with it. Or number two, the reflection or whatever, like usually someone's using some sort of a guide or whatever, um, is so thorough and so in depth that they don't want to invest the time to go through it. They may be interested, but they just don't have the amount of time that it looks like. I just completed one of these for something within our business, and it took me 2 or 3 days to go through, and it was great to reflect that much, but it was almost teetering on the line of pointless because I don't know that I'll ever go back. It was so in depth that I don't know that I'll go back and look at it. So we have used, and when I say we, I mean me personally, as well as people that we work with, have used a framework over the years to create goals that I think is both basic and extremely helpful. And if you have not already looked, there is a PDF guide that you can go download and, you can either use it yourself over the next few days or middle of the year. You can share it with somebody else who might need it, but we wanted to have it in a printable form so that you could go in there and really look at it. So the first thing that I do is I just broadly look at 3 very basic questions, and that is this. Number 1, what still eats at me that I wanted to do last year but never did? Now, like the word that I attach to this is regret, but it's not regret in the sense of I did something that I wish I wouldn't have and now I'm like sulking in it. It's more reflection that is motivating. So there's probably something, be it big or small, in 2025 that you just sort of had like in the back of your mind as you wanted to do, and you kept putting it off and you kept putting it off, and now here it is, end of the year, and you never got around to it. So what is that thing? And I would write that down, on this sheet or in a journal or whatever it is that you use. Number two, what is one thing that I changed and found a ton of value out of changing? And the word that I put to that is keep. So there's something that you did. It might seem like one small nugget, one small habit, one small rock that you did last year that you felt either really, really proud of. It served you really, really well. You had a really, really good outcome out of doing that. And that's something that you want to continue to do because, you found value in it. You found that it helped you in some way. Number three, maybe the most important and also the most overlooked. What are some things that I'm doing that either I don't need to be doing or don't serve me in any fashion at all? And the word that I attach to that is leave. So I think this is the most important because usually these reflections that come at the end of the year and, are trying to steer people to create goals for the new year are all about all these things you've got to add and change and blah blah blah. But in all reality, I think the best thing that most of us could do is to stop doing something or some things. Take something off of the plate because the reality of things is this. The things that are probably holding you back from number one and two are because of number three. And this could range from, you know, something deep like a relationship to something as seemingly insignificant, but probably true of all of us, which is doom scrolling on social media, right? Just spending that much time on social media is detracting from numbers one and two. What didn't I do in 2025, but I really want to? Could you have spent less time? Could you have dropped something to make room for that? Or what was one thing that I changed and found a ton of value in? Could I do two? Like maybe it was like, for example, one thing that I'm thinking of is we challenge some people to go for, a couple of just daily walks, no podcasts. You're not trying to multitask. You're not trying to call somebody. Your phone is in your pocket and you're just going for a walk. Sure, I'm sure it makes you healthier, but that's not the reason we advocate for it. It is simply to clear your head so you can remind yourself of other things that matter and that are important. So, if that was one thing that you added in 2025, maybe the second thing now becomes, you include some sort of nutrition element in there or whatever. There's a number of different things that you could plug in your line here, but if we were doing less and instead investing that time on something more focused, it's far more likely that we are going to get an end outcome that, we actually want going into the new year. So I ask myself those three questions to sort of begin things because that's the goal. What did I regret? What do I need to keep? What do I need to leave behind? That sort of guides everything for me. Now, these you could have a bunch of things listed under here, but I'm going to challenge you to choose the big one for each. Choose one. And if you want to chip away at the others in the future, that's fine. But here's the two things that after you write those down, I want you to think about. And this is really important. So number one, first of all, choose one primary focus for the new year. Now, this could be a variety of different things. It could be your nutrition habits. It could be your training habits. It could be your finances. It could be your relationships. It could be your career. It could be anything. But I am going to challenge you, choose one. Now, the second guide that you're going to see attached in the show notes is a quadrant that we make. This quadrant is broken up into the 4 quarters of the year. You can come back and, use the other 3 quadrants later, but just focus on the first one. So for example, quadrant 1 could be nutrition. It doesn't mean exercise doesn't matter to you. It doesn't mean finances don't matter to you. It doesn't mean your career doesn't matter to you. It doesn't mean those other things I just mentioned do not matter. It just means it's not the primary focus in quarter 1. All right. Let yourself have the Set yourself up for success by having one singular focus. If you have one singular focus that you become a master of in 12 weeks, that will stay if you decide to add a second in the second quarter, right? So let's say that you become a master of your nutrition over the first 12 weeks. By the time that the second quarter of the year rolls around, which would be April or so, if you want to add in some focused training to that, you could. It's very likely at that point that nutrition has become a habit to you. So much of what you worked on in quarter one is naturally carrying over into quarter two without as much effort. But if you go into the first quarter and you're like, man, my nutrition sucked in 2025, my training sucked in 2025, my finances sucked in 2025, my relationship sucked in 2025. I'm going to I'm going to change them all. I'm going to start saving all my money. I'm going to call my mom every single day. I'm going to, work on my nutrition, and I'm going to start training from 0 days per week to going to the gym 5 days per week. It is very likely then that you fall into the high percentage of people who are completely done with these new goals and efforts by February. The number one problem that I see is that in working with people is there is too much way too soon, and they didn't set themselves up for success. And we often then absorb that and feel like something's wrong with me. Why can't I get it together? I wish I just had more discipline. And I look at their game plan that they're telling me and tell them, look, this has got nothing to do with motivation, discipline, or you. Your plan was doomed for failure from the beginning. This is the byproduct of a bad plan, not a bad person. And the best thing that I have found to do is give yourself one focus for the new year in the first quarter and then revisit it later on. But those 3 questions you answered in the beginning should help guide what that primary focus in the new year is. What did you regret? What do you want to keep? What do you need to leave behind? And those things should help steer you towards which one of these things is your number one for, the new year. So that quadrant is also attached or linked in the show notes alongside that guide. Now, I'm going to take a very small side tangent and also say that if you are already in a good routine of training and exercise, but it's sort of stale and bored and you don't really have any direction, I also use the quadrant for my training. So I may take quarter one and let it be built on. Usually I do. Usually the death hike is in spring or summer. It's kind of one of the main things that requires a lot of physical effort in my given year. So quadrant one is generally going to be endurance. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't care about strength training, and it doesn't mean that I stopped strength training altogether. It just means I'm not spending the bulk of my time doing lots of bro lifts and bodybuilding type of, weightlifting, because that does nothing for me in the death hike. But because I know that I have spent this quarter focused on endurance, and I can pick strength training back up again in June in a more focused way, my brain is okay with letting it go because I know that I'm going to pick it back up. So again, choose a primary focus for the year. Those quadrants are in the links in the show notes. Number 2, set 2 to 3 habit-based goals around whatever it is that you identified as being your primary focus of the new year. Reason for that is this. I am a massive believer, both in my own personal life and in the hundreds of people that we have worked with, that your outcomes are solely based on a system. If you write something down that you want, it will absolutely be yours if you create a system that moves you towards whatever it is that you said you want. It's not on motivation. It's not on determination. It's not on hope or whatever. It is a reflection of a system, right? And that system is a handful of things that you are doing routinely over and over and over again. It's what we say all the time: master the basics and do them with relentless consistency. But if you go back to my thoughts where you've got a million different things that you're working on, and there's 3 and 4 bullet points of what you've got to do in a given week to do all of those million things between your relationships, your finances, your nutrition, your fitness, all of these things. I mean, you're going to look at that list and never start because it looks so overwhelming. But now, because you've used this guide, what you instead have is you have what you know is your number one focus this year because you don't want to regret something. There's some things you want to keep and there's some things you need to leave behind because you answered those 3 questions first. Now you have a focus. And so you can say, look, all of these other things might matter to me, but my primary focus is these 2 or 3 things, right? It is taking this huge, broad, audacious, scary, unrealistic goal of changing your whole life to become this model person that you're envisioning to, I am now focused on the one thing that matters the most to me. Yep, there's a lot of things that need some work, and I'm probably going to get to those too sometime. But right now, this is number one. So number 3, 4, 5, and 6 really don't matter if I fail at this. And so it just really, really hones in on what's important to you. And, again, it allows you to move from all these reflections and unrealistic goals to a really specific one that, is ultimately the most important to you. So both of those guides will be linked and you can, check those out whenever you want to. You can send them along to a friend and, set up your goals well. That quadrant, I think, is massively helpful, but it's really important to remember as you go through this. It is very, very important to remember by committing to one thing, you are not saying these other areas of your life or these other areas of your training or these other areas of nutrition do not matter to you. You're not saying that. You are simply saying, this is the first thing that I want to chip away at. When I get good at this and I move from I move from intentional decision to subconscious thought and behavior, then I can take on number 2. But number 2, 3, and 4 really are meaningless if I can't get control of number 1. You've got to figure out a way to let your brain be okay pressing hard towards one thing while knowing you're not taking care of the other things. They're just on a shelf for you to go back and pick up later. And it's the same with training. By focusing on endurance, you're not saying that you're not strength training. It's not like you don't touch a single weight when you're focused on endurance. The strength training becomes specific. My strength training when training for the death hike is more to facilitate the endurance to prevent injury, not get big muscles, right? So that's the point is I'm not strength training. It's just that because endurance is my specific and number one goal, that then guides my time spent strength training to facilitate that number one goal. And once I do the death hike, then that changes. My training changes. Like, okay, well, what do I want to work on now? Strength training. Great. Now I don't do as much endurance. I go from doing, 3 and 4 hour bike rides to a leisurely 30 and spend or devote a more focused time on strength training because now that's my goal. So that's an important thing to remember about all of this is that when you set a focus on one area, it's not saying you neglect the others. It's just that you're not investing all of this time to where you feel so overwhelmed that you're not able to equally distribute to everything that you just quit. And that's the number one goal that we see. So, all right, it's the number one problem that we see. So as you move in here, you're asking yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what still eats at me that I didn't do in 2025? That's a regret of mine. Some way, shape, or form, I want to fix that. Number 2, what's the one thing that I changed and found a ton of value in changing? I want to keep that. I'm going to figure out a way to make sure that that keeps happening. Number 3, what are some things that I'm doing, but either I don't need to be doing them or they're not serving me in any way at all. They're not helping at all. And I'm going to find a way to get rid of those things like they are a disease. I am kicking that to the curb as soon as I possibly can so that I can use my answers in there. And I'm going to find one primary focus for the new year using that quadrant map. And then I'm going to set 2 to 3 goals to make sure that whatever that focus is happens regularly. If you do that, I can promise you that you will move closer towards whatever it is that you're picturing, be it relationships, finances, nutrition, fitness, or something else. more so than all of these big heady ideas that you just end up never making any moves on because they seem so difficult. And as we say a million times, or evidently 100,000 times, complexity kills compliance. Do not overcomplicate it, or you are dead before you ever even start trying towards it. So complexity kills compliance. Clarity beats complexity. What gets measured gets managed. So you got to have a game plan. If you do those things, I can guarantee you, you will be further this year than you were before. And it's not even to say that you are a bad version of you. It's just to say that you're going to accomplish the things that are specific and important to you as you move towards that. Last but not least, a couple of questions that you guys had asked that I felt like are worth covering because we've never really covered these. We've always just wanted to be a good outlet of trustworthy nutrition. And so I have, maybe to my uh, discredit, never really talked about our programs or whatever. So there's a little bit of that in this because of questions you've asked. So a question someone has said is coaching right for you, or should I go for something lower tier? Or what their specific question was, how do you know if coaching is right for you or if you should go to something lower in tier? I don't even like the word coaching. I've said that a million times, but I guess that's what people most closely identify with. I think the reason I don't is because it seems like everybody and their next door neighbor is a coach of some kind. And I don't like the title, but I guess it's what I am. Here's what I would say. I'd say number one, a coach is right for you if you know what to do, but you struggle to do it consistently, and you recognize the value and need of accountability. Number two, I would say if you think you know what to do and that thing is not getting you results, you either don't know what to do or something's off and you need someone with a more experienced eye to it. And like, I think that's a broader truth in all of this anyway. Hiring a coach of any kind or a business consultant of any kind is a short path to the answers that you want. It's a shortcut to the answers that you want, right? That's both based off of potential knowledge. That person could have more knowledge, but I would say what's more important is experience. It is reps. And so like as a coach, you see so much so often that you should, in your field of expertise, be able to look at a situation, a scenario, or a person and say, I am pretty dang sure that I know what's going on here. And we can create both a path of least resistance as well as cost you the least amount of time to get you the answer and the outcome that it is that you want. And I think that alone, regardless of the expertise or field of specialty that you're talking about, is worth the value of a coach. Now, again, going back to all of my personal qualms with the title, I would say you need to vet any coach you're interested in hiring before you ever pay them. Interview a few of them, including me. I mean, if you have some potential idea that you might benefit from a coach and there's a couple you're between, filter all of them, vet all of them, talk to former clients that they've used, asked about experiences, get reviews, say, hey, how long have you been doing this, working with people? Because that's the other thing with the coaches. There is a tremendous amount of difference between all that you might have in your head or even your credentials and how well you can convey that to a person to where that person can then go execute what it is that you're saying and get the results that they want. So I think that, all of those things are important to think about. I mean, there's so many different things you could filter under this heading, but ultimately you need to decide if you need some help and direction, accountability, a game plan that works, if there's a systemized approach, kind of like we talked about today. I mean, I think that practical solutions for you, example solutions of things that you're talking about, all of those things to me are when you should hire a coach. But really, I would say the most what value a coach brings to whatever it is that you're trying to do. When is it not right for you? Oh boy. If you want a quick fix, if you do not want to work with someone, if you want to, like, if you don't like people helping you, if you don't want to be corrected, do not find a coach. If you don't want critical but helpful feedback, don't find a coach. If you have trouble taking direction, don't hire a coach. If your expectations of results are not realistic and built off of what you've seen online, you probably shouldn't hire a coach. If you like following templates, you should go purchase a template and do not invest in coaching. And again, like, these are all just things that are kind of coming to my head right now, but I would say that that's a good place to start. And if you find yourself under one of those two headings, then I would let my action follow that as to whether or not I decided to invest in coaching. And maybe that's a good place to end it too. Is, before you hire anybody, I would be sure that you are really interested in the iterative process that comes with coaching. So meeting one time with a person is not coaching. That is a Q and A, right? The process of coaching is, I mean, as stupid as this is going to sound, it's like putting a piece of clay on a wheel and you're constantly making adjustments to that until it becomes this finished outcome that you want, right? But if you're kind of just interested in meeting with someone saying, "Hey, I'm stuck. What's going on?" Oh, okay, getting some direction and then going from there, you're probably going to end up hitting another wall shortly thereafter, and you kind of have to be just committed to the process and the relationship, because that's where you're going to get the most value out of it. If it's jumping in, getting some advice, some quick tips, and then getting out, that's not coaching. I would, I don't know, get on YouTube, I guess. Second question. Do you guys take HSAs? We don't formally take insurance. Your local dietitian, if they're in a medical facility, probably does, because those are billed as what we call medical nutrition therapy and billable units, but that is not what we do. We don't do medical nutrition therapy and we don't bill as units. So although we do not take HSAs, we have had people use their HSA debit cards to pay for different services, because again, it's a wellness and nutrition program. So everything that we work on still files under that heading, but I always encourage people to check with their insurance companies. But yeah, we've definitely had people use their HSA debit cards and pay for our nutrition consulting services, our program. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, I would definitely check with whoever is in charge of that over your HSA, and we'd love to have you. And the last question, do you guys require payment in full? I see a lot of programs require really big upfront investments before they are ever agreeing to work with you. Do you do that, or is it different? It is different. We do not require paid in full. We go on a month by month basis, but we are entertaining the idea of offering a discount to someone who might be interested in paying for a certain period of time up front. And, just as a way to help them for showing the commitment, to be honest with you. The reason that we do not currently require a paid in full upfront is several. Number one, it's a very difficult ask until you know what you are getting from a service standpoint, right? And so it's really hard for me to even tell you, what are you getting? If you call EXO and you say you're interested in a K4, you know exactly what's going to show up on your door. If you go to your local sports warehouse and there's a product that you're wanting to buy, you know pretty well exactly what you're going to get. Those are harder to define with a service, because you don't really know what the quality is going to be, right? I mean, if I hire or I'm interested in a cleaning service or a plumber, there might be somebody who comes over as a cleaning service at a certain price point and absolutely crushes it. I mean, just looks great when they leave. And then you might hire somebody else at the exact same price point or even higher, who comes over and looks like they hadn't touched anything. And so you're very unlikely to pay that person again or return for a second month until you feel comfortable and confident in what you received on the first month. So you don't know that, and I know you don't know that. So it's really hard for me to say, hey, oh, trust me, what you're going to get's going to be great. We're going to work on this, this, and this. You'll be so happy. Even though I believe that is true, you may not know that, and you don't want to spend your money until you do. And so for that reason alone, we don't generally, not generally, we don't require a upfront payment. Now, we have very high success rates on returning people after that, but the first month is always a little bit of a roll of the dice, and I understand that. Number two, it's a difficult ask until you know what you are getting as far as me, personality wise, right? And so it's the same type of a deal, like um, the value that you get out of a service or an appointment or whatever is sometimes based on the relationship of that person you're working with. And that's very true of coaches. That's true of teachers. That's true of counselors. That's true of so many different person to person type of businesses like ours. You don't know if it's going to be a good fit until you meet with the person. So it's again hard for me to say, hey, yep, guess what? You're stuck with me for 4 to 6 months. And after week one, you're like, dude, I don't even know if I can stand you for another 4 to 6 days, much less 4 to 6 months. And again, I know that. So we don't ask for that up front until you feel like, yeah, I think, this is a group that I could potentially work with. And at that point, you can decide whether or not you want to return for, month two based on that. Number three, it's a difficult ask until you know your commitment level. You might go into it like we talked about at the start of this podcast thinking, oh man, this is going to be great. Full send. I'm all in. You may get 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in and feel like, oh, this isn't, the level of commitment that I thought that I was going to be able to make to this and blah, blah, blah. But now in the meantime, yeah, you paid for 4 months, 6 months or whatever it is. And now it's like, oh, how do you get out of that? So part of that is what I have seen over the years is the first couple of weeks is difficult. After that, it becomes a little routine. And then after that, you're all in, right? I mean, it's because you start to get into a good rhythm. You're seeing positive outcomes from the habits that you've changed. And once you start to see that, and once you start to see those habits take hold, it's kind of addictive to people, and they want to keep seeing the change. And so then at that point, they're pretty committed and do whatever needs to be done to get to the goal. But you don't know that till you're in. So, all of these things are really, I recognize you don't know what you don't know until you do it. And it's hard for me to say, oh, well, just commit the next X number of months of your life to us until you get these figured out. I promise it'll be great. That just sounds like everything you hear everywhere. And we don't want to be like that. Number four, and in full transparency, it makes me work harder. And it breaks up the idea of how coaching usually is, which is like these half-hearted check-ins, and I respond to you once a week with a template recipe and send you some macros. I mean, obviously I want you to keep coming back because that's going to see your best results. And so, yeah, if I know I want you to return, I need to provide a good service. So going back to the cleaning analogy, if I want to keep cleaning your house, I'm going to scrub every nook and cranny that I possibly can because I want you to keep calling me. So I have a business, not just a hobby that earns a little bit of money. And so, yes, for me, going monthly instead of making people make these big full-time commitments, it makes me work harder and try to help them as much as I can. It's motivating to me too. So hopefully that helps answers some of the questions you guys have had. We've had a couple of those for a long time, and I've just said on them because I don't like, talking about that part of it. It's just not as fun, but it is necessary. And I've learned over the years that not only is it necessary, but I am robbing people of not getting the answers that they want by not answering their questions. So hopefully that helps. Thank you for sticking with me through this. I hope the framework helps. Again, those are all linked in the show notes. You can go click them, download them for free, share them with your friend. Just say, hey, I came across this from a friend of mine named Kyle. We were talking about this the other day about, 2026 and some things we wish that we would have done and we didn't. Check this out. You think this would work? Let's go through it together. You can send that to them. and you guys could even do it together. If you use it, I'd love to hear how it goes for it. If you look at it and you've got questions about it, you can send me the questions. I'd be happy to help you. But thank you for the tremendous support. Thank you for helping us get to almost 100,000 downloads since we first started this. If you've ever enjoyed an episode, we would really appreciate you liking or ranking the episode, leaving us a comment, sharing it with a friend. You hear this on all the podcasts about how helpful that is, and it really is. So thank you for everything. We will be back again in 2026. Have a safe and happy new year, and we will talk to you again in another couple of weeks.